Okay, I don't know about you, but I want people to like me. This is something that, for as long as I can remember, has been a goal of mine. Usually in my social interactions, when I'm in a group setting, when I'm hanging out with people, I just want to feel liked, right? And what I've realized over time is that whenever I'm interacting with a group of people or even with a specific person, and my goal is to feel liked, my goal is to either impress the person or make them, or to get their attention, or to have them admire me or appreciate me, or to feel anything like that, right? In all of those situations, it has been a negative experience. Anytime that my focus is on what I can get out of it in that way, it becomes a negative experience. I do not enjoy that interaction at all, right? And so now this video could go in the direction of why you should, rather than focusing on what you can get from an interaction, focus instead on what you can bring to an interaction, what you can give to an interaction. But I'm pretty sure I've actually already made a video on that. Instead, what I want to talk about here is specifically the idea that those feelings often result from levels of either anxiety or insecurity or dependency. And yes, I do think a great thing that you can do in order to kind of ease the symptoms in a sense and to kind of help you frame your situations differently is to look at it as what can you give in a situation as to what you can receive, what you can take or get. But instead, I think you can also address it on an even deeper level by having more than one thing. And so what does that mean necessarily? I think you should, in multiple different areas, in any area of your life, you should have more than one thing you're focusing on, right? So hobbies, have more than one hobby, right? You have work, maybe have something else you're doing outside of work, right? You have maybe a romantic interest. Okay, this might seem kind of weird, but if you have a romantic interest, remember that there are other people who are allow yourself to continue to still feel romantically interested in other people as well, right? You have a group of people who you want to kind of get in with, right? You want to start being friends with, right? Have other groups of friends as well, right? In all of these situations, you can defend yourself against insecurity and against overly emotionally relying on the people around you by having other things. And so this is an idea that I just kind of realized a couple days ago, and that's why I'm having difficulty, I guess, phrasing it in the best way. But I think it's something very important because I realized that I was in a situation like this. So I was in an event a couple days ago. And I had known some of the people there, but I didn't know everyone. And I was trying to just kind of I guess, hit it off with some people, trying to get some conversation going. And it just wasn't really happening, right? And, maybe I tried making some jokes and then they just didn't land, right? And I was trying to talk about some stuff that might be interesting, right? Something that we could get a conversation going, and everything just fell flat. And I just felt kind of in that moment, after a while, it just kind of started eroding at my confidence. And I just started feeling kind of like shit, people don't like me. I started feeling it wasn't so strong to where I could say oh, I'm worthless. But I felt a creeping of a feeling, a creeping of that feeling, just kind of little by little, like a voice in my head kind of being people don't really want you here. People don't appreciate you. People aren't interested in interacting with you, right? And that kind of started to grow a little bit. And that is something that I've experienced and had to deal with many times previously throughout my life, right? But the interesting thing now is that as a person, I have changed in many ways. And one of the ways in which I've changed is that I've started dedicating myself to things. I've started kind of diversifying my life more than I ever had previously. And I've started picking up new hobbies, new interests, like going to meet a lot of new people, right? I've been doing all sorts of things that I hadn't before. And so now I was in this situation, right? I was in this gathering. I was talking to all these people and I was starting to get those feelings. And where before I might have felt a lot more kind of insecure and maybe a little bit anxious as a result of it, this time it seems kind of weird, but I just started feeling kind of okay, Like, I don't care, right? Like, yeah, I was upset, kind of. It's like I didn't feel great, right? And it's like I was having some of these like negative creeping thoughts, but overall, I just kind of had this reaction of it's okay if these people don't like me. And I've never felt that before. And it took me a while. Like, I had to really think about it afterwards to like realize that. But I've never felt that feeling before because my goal in every interaction had always been like, even if I ignored it, the subtext was still there where I wanted to be liked. I wanted a person to like me. And that means that I could shift myself. I could say things that I didn't truly believe in, right? I could do any kind of thing just to try and feel like I fit in, to try and feel like the people around me like me. And in this moment, I realized like, oh, you know, it's okay if I didn't really hit it off with these people. It's okay if these people don't like me. It's okay if, you know, some of my jokes fell flat. And it's okay even if they have like a strange first impression of me, right? Because that doesn't matter as much as it used to. Why? Why doesn't that matter as much as it used to? And I started really kind of like thinking about that question. And what I realized was, oh, because they are no longer the only thing, right? Because in previous situations in my life, you know, like let's say you're at school and you feel like the people at school don't like you. Well, school is the only thing you've got. You're in college, you know, you got like a couple friend groups, right? That's the only thing you've got, right? You once you finish there, you get to work. Maybe some of the people in your workplace don't like you. You start feeling that, right? Your work friends are the only thing you've really got, right? If you don't take the effort yourself to explore your interests and to diversify the different aspects of your life, and you just kind of stick to the default, well, then all you'll have is the default. And that means that you only have one shot, right? Like, if you are in a group of people, if you only have one group of people and they don't like you, you only have one tribe and that tribe does not want you, then you are unwanted, right? You feel unliked. You feel unappreciated, right? You feel, just like I said before, unwanted, right? And if you've only got one, then that's it. That's what you are. But if you start to increase that, I guess, right? You defend yourself against those feelings. Because in my case, for example, now, like, okay, there are these people who I interacted with, right? Cool. I might not have perfectly like been able to like go into a conversation with them or like really hit it off with them and start making new friends and stuff, right? Like that situation just might not have worked. But it's not like some kind of, you know, apocalyptic feeling. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm alone, right? I'm unwanted. Instead, it just feels like, okay, it just didn't work with this group of people, but, you know, I go to jiu-jitsu and I have some friends there, right? And I do some rock climbing and I've been meeting some new people there, right? And that's nice. And then, like, you know, I have my workplace and I have some people there who I interact with who are very nice, and I'm like making some friends there. I have like a couple different circles because I have a few friends who have, you know, introduced me to their friends, for example, right? And so then I've got these other friends too. And in all of this, I've realized that I have kind of given myself so many different circles, in a sense, that if I meet a new person and we don't hit it off as friends and maybe they don't like me, or maybe I don't feel particularly wanted, it's okay because I know that there's other groups that want me, right? And so I think, you know, one way to defend yourself against those feelings of insecurity and to kind of prevent yourself from developing an emotional dependence on people is to do that, to diversify, to have a little more, right? And the same kind of thing applies with like the things you do, right? Because sometimes there's like a day where, let's say I'm playing guitar, for instance, right? And if I just don't feel like I'm good at guitar, right? Like some days I just don't feel like I'm playing guitar and I don't feel like I'm doing well. And I start thinking like, God damn it, like I'm a shit guitarist, right? Like I don't have a good time, right? I'm getting frustrated, I'm getting annoyed, and I'm questioning my overall ability and all that. And it's just like, it's frustrating, but it doesn't affect me on a deep personal level because I know it doesn't define me, because I also have other things that I do as well, right? I have other hobbies and other interests that I'm taking part in now. So if at some point something's kind of frustrating, I just don't feel like I'm in it for guitar right now, that's okay. I'll go do something else. Same thing in your workplace, right? Like maybe there's just something going on where, you feel like work just isn't going as good as it can be. Maybe you had a project canceled. Maybe you had, some meetings that didn't go particularly well. Maybe you just feel like you're hitting a rough patch in your work, right? If you have something you're working on the side, maybe like a passion project or just some other interest that you're pursuing, then it's okay. It doesn't define you because it's not the only thing you have, right? If you might be hitting that rough patch in work, but that's okay because you're still putting energy towards something else. I think that the main kind of lesson here, or the main kind of takeaway, is that if you don't want to feel insecure, you need to be able to separate yourself from the things that you're doing, from the people you're interacting with, right? And to do that, you need to have, you want to prevent yourself from developing a dependence. And to do that, you have to have more. You have to have more options, right? When you're, romantically pursuing someone, remember that there are other people that you're attracted to as well. And if they say no, if they reject you, that's okay. It's no big deal, right? There are other people. If you want to be friends with someone, if you want to kind of like get in on this group, right? Maybe it's not a great match. Maybe you just don't fit in all that well. That's fine. You don't have to fit in. There are other people. There are other groups that you're a part of, right? In any sense, right? None of these things define you because they are no longer the only thing. And that's an idea that, I just thought was interesting, and I wanted to kind of like convey it, I guess. Let me make sure I'm still recording. Yeah. I just thought that idea was interesting because it really is a safeguard, and it was completely unintentional, because these are feelings, these kinds of insecurities and these dependencies are things that I've had to deal with for as long as I can remember. And I was a very toxic individual at the height of these feelings, which I would say was, fortunately early for me, around middle school and high school, was kind of the height of these insecurities. And I've been steadily improving on them since. But at that period of time, I was a toxic individual, and I look back at it with such disdain, right? And I've been working hard on it, but I didn't even realize this aspect because it was accidental, right? All of a sudden, I just realized, wait, something that I would have cared deeply about before is not bothering me now. Why is that? And I realized, like, oh, it kind of doesn't matter, because even if I'm in this group, right? And even if like all these people have maybe a strange first impression of me, or maybe I just don't, like, all my jokes fall flat, right? And I just look kind of stupid, or maybe I make some mistake, or I say something dumb, right? It's like, okay, all these people think that of me. Fine. What does it matter? Tomorrow I'm going to go practice jujitsu, and I'm going to hang out with all my friends there anyway, right? And I'm going to have a great time, and I'm probably not even going to remember it. And I'm going to go back home, and I'm going to cook with some of my roommates and more friends, right? And have a good time there, right? Like, who cares? You know what I mean? So that's just something that is totally, like, radically different, a radically different experience. And it's nice, right? Like, I believe it gives you an amount of strength, an amount of, like, resistance, because you don't become defined by your worst moments, in a sense. You don't become dependent on something so much that if it messes up, if it doesn't go perfectly, that it ruins you, right? Or it feels like it, right? And so I think that's really cool. And that's something that I wanted to, like, kind of get down here, because I want to remember it. And honestly, at this point, I guess that's what these videos are for, right? Because I want to remember this idea. I want to remember that if you want to defend yourself against insecurity and against reliance, you got to have more options. You have to have more, that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. Apples in one basket, eggs in... You can't, you know the saying. You can't do that, because then you rely on it. And when you rely on it, it's no longer natural, and it doesn't flow, right? If a person is your only friend, then, like, if one person, let me rephrase that. I think a great example of this is back to, like, if you have one person who you're romantically interested in, right? And they reject you, it can feel like it's the end of the world. And that's not an attractive thing to the other person either, right? And you don't want to be the kind of person who hands someone else the reins to your emotional state, right? Instead, take a step back and just realize like it doesn't define you. There are other people you find attractive as well. You have other options. You don't need this person. You don't need anything, right? If you have more than one of everything in every aspect of your life, you don't need anything. And when you do things not because you need them, but because you want them, right? Then you are okay if you get them and okay if you don't. And that becomes such a more powerful place to start from, right? And it's just an idea that I want to explore more because I think that's very interesting. And it's not common that like one of your biggest insecurities just kind of fades away accidentally, right? Or becomes nullified by something accidentally. And so I think that this is a very powerful thing. And so if you are like me and you have felt those kinds of insecurities before, right? And kind of that feeling of always wanting everyone to like you and always needing people's attention and always, wanting to be wanted, I guess. And always feeling like you're not and feeling insecurity as a result of that and some level of anxiety, right? Do something new. Diversify your life, right? Get new interests, meet some new people, go make some new friends, make some new groups, right? Introduce yourself to a lot of people, just expose yourself to more so that at no point is anything your only thing. And at no point is anything something that you emotionally depend on. You can become emotionally independent and gain strength from that because now you have multiple things that you're doing, right? Yeah, so I hope that has helped. I think that it was interesting personally. And just wanted to get that on here. All right.